watching is the new Behringer 130, the Dual VCA Eurorack module, which is a clone of the Roland System-100m, and we're going to check it out. Well, thanks for watching, and it's really great to have you here. Now, this video is not going to be a how-to scientific with oscilloscopes and like let's do an electrical study. I'm not one of those sort of guys. If you want to see a video like that, see you later. This video is more about how this sounds, and I'm not going to show you every facet of this because it'll be a very long video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few things that I've discovered. Now, I'll be the first to admit I am not very well rehearsed with Eurorack. I'm only a noob, and I'm only very new to things like VCAs in a Eurorack format. I've been a synthesist for many years, so I completely understand what VCAs do, but actually having a separate module, this has been a revelation to me. So why do we need VCAs? What is it about them? Why do we use one? Well, there's been sayings that you can never have enough VCAs, and I first heard this and I thought, yeah, it's just a marketing ploy, but it's actually really true. They are so useful, and they're so useful in a number of ways. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to tell you why, if you're going to get the Behringer System-100ms, why you would actually need one of these, because they actually are so handy. Now, this looks like a convoluted patch here, and it is, and I'll strip this all back and we'll go from scratch. But let's start with something really basic, and that is, let's get rid of all this fantastic patch that I've done, and I'm just going to show you what a VCA does without any sort of trickery, okay? Now, what we want is we want to have no modulation coming in on the filter here, right? And we want to have just a tone. So what I've got is, I've got the Behringer neutron sending me out oscillator mix, and this is going straight into the filter. What we'll do is we'll bring the filter right up. We are then going to slowly introduce that sound into the VCA. Now, what this initial gain does is this opens the gate, if you like, of the VCA. Right? Now, this is the first important point of why we need a VCA, and that is that it actually reduces audio in a lot of cases that we can hear, and we can control that, and we can control that amplitude through modulation. But in some cases, it actually reduces audio that isn't audible to us. It's in higher frequencies or sub frequencies, and those frequencies may actually mud up your sound, and that's why a VCA is actually very handy. So you can see opening it, it's a constant sound, right? But if I introduce an envelope to this modulation control here, and I'm doing that using the math module here, I've got a bit of release, what they call it fall on the math, and no rise at all, it's just a sharp, and it's just basically making that tone. If I reduce the fall, it'll shorten that right up to very clicky stabs or very long releases. Okay, so that's your first basic reason why you would use a VCA. It's a volume knob, but it controls the gate of what's coming out. Now, if I bring back in that filter modulation that I had going before, okay, you can actually control the filter. Alright, so another thing you can do is you can also make a bit of an attack sound, so you can round off that sound. So you can hear that. And if we just take off that filter mod completely, you'll just hear the... So you're controlling what attack and release is on this. Now, also you can actually play with the amount of modulation, so we can actually loosen that up. And that's just done with like a voltage control. It's almost like a volume on it. So that's what that modulation knob control is there. Now the other thing we can do on this too is we can actually, and this is kind of the envelope features of VCAs, we've got linear and exponential here. So I'll just move those cables out the way and you can see linear and exponential. Now what linear does is gives it a fairly decent size, but exponential will shorten. We can get very clicky percussive sounds. And a good way to show this is if we cycle the envelope on the math. So very, very snappy envelope cycling there. But even better, maybe if we, instead of using a tone, let's introduce noise and we can get some sort of percussive sounds. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have this delay on, should I? You guys are probably annoyed with me. There we go. And that is literally just adjusting the release. Now if we bring a filter into this, you can get different timbres on that, bit of resonance on the filter. Introduce a bit of now if you mix noise with tone, it gives it those sort of harsher sort of filter squeals. Another thing we haven't really done on this is we haven't put this into exponential on here. It's very quiet. Okay. All right, we need to go louder on here. Now this is starting to head into the amplitude modulation, or AM. right, so what else we got to do? Overdrive. Let's try that. Okay, so we know we've got this tone coming in, right? All right, let's just turn that down. Now, what we're going to do with this tone is we're going to need to feed it into itself, and we're going to use one of these double cables from Tip Top Audio. Okay, so let's feed the output back into itself. So there is the overdrive. A little gritty, maybe as a little surprise, maybe we'll do one more thing. Why don't we introduce an LFO into one of these envelopes here? Why don't we put it on the full of the filter? What envelope can I use? Could use a math envelope, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use the envelope out of, actually I'm going to use the LFO, and I'm going to attenuate this LFO. So I'm going to come out of attenuator 1. We can change that. Now this attenuator that I've patched it through, it would just takes a little bit of the edge off it. Okay, now let's do this. That's just crazy. Anyway, there is the Behringer 130 Roland System-100m clone Dual VCA a voltage control amplifier. Notice that I only used one of these, just one. There are actually two. And notice also there's 3 modulation inputs and 3 signal inputs. So you can actually, you know, do some crazy stuff with it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I didn't mention either that it has a low output. Excuse me. It also has a low output here. So you can see it has a high and a low. So depending on your setup, you may want to use the low output. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I actually want to get to know this even more. This is just a real basic overview on how it sounds and what it does. Yeah, I might want to see if I can muck around with it and see if I can get some ducking happening on it. But yeah, well, maybe the next part 2 on this, when I start getting some more of these modules in, we can start playing around with it a bit more. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Catch you later next time. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you so please. Catch you later.